The New Japan Pro Wrestling representative for AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door pay-per-view has been revealed, with one possible New Japan Pro Wrestling star becoming an interim AEW World Champion. Plus, we have an update on a new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion being crowned at the Dominion pay-per-view. Plus, several other champions have been crowned that are going to have an influence on the Forbidden Door event. Plus, we have an update when it comes to AEW Dark's latest TV tapings over at Universal Studios. All this and more in today's AEW News. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling, and today, New Japan Pro Wrestling, as we get closer and closer to Forbidden Door later this month. So let's start off talking about Hiroshi Tanahashi, because now we know, easy for me to say, who the New Japan Pro Wrestling representative is going to be in the interim AEW World Championship match at AEW's and New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door event later this month. It is finally happening. Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated Hiroki Goto at the New Japan Pro Wrestling Dominion event to earn the right to face Jon Moxley for the interim AEW World Championship at Forbidden Door on June 26th. Now, Tanahashi defeated Goto with aces high following the high fly flow. Moxley, of course, has been calling out Tanahashi for, almost 3 years? I think it's been like 3 years, again, with the pandemic and everything as it was. He's been calling him out for a really long time, since he started appearing regularly in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He qualified for the match, of course, Moxley did, as a result of his victory over Kyle O'Reilly on Wednesday's edition of AEW Dynamite on TBS. Moxley is the top-ranked contender in the official AEW rankings, while, of course, Kyle O'Reilly won the Casino Battle Royale to star in Dynamite in order to compete against Moxley. Now, Tanahashi was, of course, originally scheduled to face CM Punk for the AEW World Championship at Forbidden Door. But, of course, that injury to Punk caused the match to change, and instead of Punk relinquishing the AEW World Championship, an interim AEW World title was created instead. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking it's a given that Moxley is going to win that match at Forbidden Door, but I don't think it is at all. I think, if anything, we know this working relationship is there between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and we know that Punk, Tony Khan, Tanahashi, the New Japan Pro Wrestling representatives, they want to do CM Punk versus Tanahashi. So for me, why not have Tanahashi win at Forbidden Door, and then eventually when Punk comes back, we don't know when that's going to be. I would suspect a couple of months, maybe 3 months. We'll have to wait and see. When Punk does come back, that's when you can do Tanahashi versus Punk for the AEW World Championship, and Punk will win that match, as he was going to win the match anyway at Forbidden Door, because it was going to be for the AEW World Championship. I think Moxley versus Punk's a fine match, but it was one of those matches, to be honest with you, that I didn't have a huge amount of interest in seeing in AEW, it must be said, because I know that CM Punk hasn't faced Jon Moxley before. He faced Dean Ambrose in WWE, but I think Chris Jericho said it quite well recently in an interview that he did, talking about possibly facing Matt Hardy or somewhere else. He was like, people have seen it. People don't want to see it. And I know it's different. And I know, for instance, when they had that tag team match before, where CM Punk selected Moxley to be his tag team partner against FTR on an episode of Dynamite earlier this year. And it was a great match. It was a real fun tag team match. But I have way more interest in Tanahashi versus CM Punk than I do in Moxley versus CM Punk. Now, it would be a real big statement of intent by AEW, certainly, to give a New Japan Pro Wrestling star the interim AEW World Championship. But anything is possible at this point, right? We've got the Forbidden Door event coming up, and with possibly having an interim AEW World Championship match and an IWGP World Heavyweight title match, the assumption is that both respective champions will win their respective matches, if that makes sense. So the AEW guys going to win the AEW World title match, and the New Japan Pro Wrestling guys going to win the New Japan Pro Wrestling or IWGP title match. But wouldn't it make sense to have something a little bit different to keep people guessing? Isn't that the point in pro wrestling? So keep an eye out for that one. But the match we thought was going to happen is going to happen. It's going to be Tanahashi versus Moxley, and that's a big match anyway, so certainly it's going to be exciting to see that at Forbidden Door. Now, I said we were going to talk a lot about New Japan Pro Wrestling today, and there's a massive title change at Dominion, because Jay White is the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He defeated Okada in the main event of today's Dominion event. Now, The finish saw White counter the Rainmaker with the Blade Runner, and that was all she wrote for Okada as Jay White got the victory. Now, this could, of course, have ramifications heading into Forbidden Door, because after the match, White sent a message to Hangman Page, who, of course, this past week on Dynamite said he wanted to face Okada if he wants him, because he's not getting the IWGP World Heavyweight title. Hangman called out Okada for a match, as I mentioned, at Forbidden Door on Wednesday's Dynamite, saying he wanted the IWGP World Heavyweight title. So the message that Jay White sent out is, well, you can face Okada if you want, but you're not going to get that title match that you're looking for. Face me and you might get that title match. Now, White, of course, has made multiple appearances on AEW television. He's 1-0 in AEW. This marks his first reign as the IWGP World Heavyweight title champion, but he is a former IWGP Heavyweight champion. Okada won the title at Wrestle Kingdom 16 from Shingo Takagi. His reign lasted 159 days. What does this mean for Forbidden Door? I mean, there has been a lot of discussion about this. It was reported previously by Meltzer that it was going to be Hangman Page versus Okada for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. He subsequently backtracked on that and said it was a false lineup that he had seen, and that Okada versus Hangman wasn't happening. Instead, there was likely to be a three-way match of some kind. We had spoken about this, I think, before. It had been spoken about that it was going to be a situation whereby possibly a three-way match or a triple threat match or something like that, but they were very non-committal on what Okada was going to be doing, and that led to a lot of people saying maybe Okada's actually going to drop the championship at Dominion, and it's going to be Jay White involved in that match instead. So if I had to predict right now, I'd say the most likely match for Forbidden Door is Jay White versus Adam Cole versus Hangman Page. Now, the interesting part of that, of course, is that Jay White and Adam Cole have that loose affiliation in AEW as part of, the Bullet Club, the Elite, and how that's going to work out. So that's going to be very interesting to see as well. So I think that's going to be the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match. I think that Jay White would retain that. The question then becomes is what is Okada going to be doing? I remember hearing a story, I don't have all of the details in front of me, that maybe Okada wouldn't be able to attend Forbidden Door, or he might be busy, and maybe that might be a situation there, but I'll have to look more into that one. But certainly we have a new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, and he is going to be defending his title. We know that at Forbidden Door. Now, also at Dominion, it wasn't the IWGP World Heavyweight title that just changed hands. I mentioned there were several title changes, one being the IWGP United States Championship. Now, this is a really fascinating story because the IWGP US Championship match was changed significantly. New Japan announced prior to the event that the current or previous IWGP US title holder, Juice Robinson, was stripped of his championship. In a press release regarding the situation, it was explained that Juice had sent New Japan Pro Wrestling officials a video of himself refusing to defend the title at the pay-per-view. This is what the statement said, quote, "On Friday, June 9, New Japan Pro Wrestling was in receipt of a video from Juice Robinson in which he stated he would not be present for his US Championship match, three-way match at Dominion. In fact, Robinson had initially agreed to the championship match Sunday in Osaka-jo Hall. Having now reneged on this agreement and refusing to attend Osaka, New Japan Pro Wrestling is hereby stripping Robinson of his champion status and is demanding the return of the championship belt currently in his possession. As a result of the championship vacancy, the previously scheduled IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship three-way is now a singles match that will determine a new champion." Now, it's quite interesting. We'll talk about the match itself in a second. Now, it's unclear at this time if this is fully storyline based, if there's an element of reality to it. Robinson recently has gone the extra mile when attempting to blur the lines between fiction and reality, including this recent announcement involving his contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling. He claimed that his contract with the company had expired. He was looking for opportunities elsewhere, and then suddenly he showed up at Wrestling in Dontaku on May 1st, turned heel and joined the Bullet Club, and everyone was like, whoa, and he called everyone marks, and that was the situation. He followed that up by winning the US title at Capital Collision in Washington on May 14. Now, up until this point, the company had established that Robinson was missing matches due to appendicitis. Whether he's just recovering from that, and that is a legitimate reason why he's missing the weekend's event, we don't know. I tend to lean into everything kind of being a work, it must be said. So I think it most likely is that he does have appendicitis. He couldn't make the trip, and they said, we'll just go somewhere else. We need Forbidden Door's a massive event, clearly, for New Japan Pro Wrestling, especially in really establishing, once again, this American footprint. So I think they just thought, yeah, we need to move on. And maybe this was always going to be the outcome anyway, because the title was vacant for not very long, because Will Ospreay is the new United States champion. He defeated Sanada in the co-main event. Now, as I mentioned, this was after it was declared vacant and all this kind of stuff. Now, what is interesting, of course, is that Ospreay made this appearance for AEW as part of this build-up to Forbidden Door. Now, we could be looking at a situation where he defends the IWGP United States Championship at Forbidden Door. Who his opponent would be, I'm not totally sure yet. We've got this FTR Roppongi Vice thing, but I think that's going to lead into another match we'll talk about in a second. So the possibilities are really open as to who he could face. And you can let me know, who do you think that Will Ospreay should face at Forbidden Door? Clearly, he's going to be on the card. It's just a case of who he's going to be facing off against. Now, we have new IWGP Tag Team Champions as well, because Jeff Cobb and the Great O'Khan recaptured the IWGP Tag Team Championships at Dominion when they defeated the Bullet Club duo of Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens. Now, again, this is very interesting when it comes to Forbidden Door, because it's fascinating as to what's going to happen for the future. The finish saw Cobb hit the Tour of Islands on Owens for the 3 counts. Now, after the match, Rocky Romero tried attacking the United Empire members, but he was laid out for his efforts. Of course, Cobb and Great O'Khan interrupted the Ring of Honor Tag Team title match between FTR and Roppongi Vice, including Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta, on May 25 on that episode of Dynamite. So it could be leading into something at Forbidden Door. What we would suspect is it's going to be Cobb and O'Khan versus Roppongi Vice versus FTR, maybe, with both sets of titles on the line, or possibly just one set of titles. I would prefer both, because that really does indicate that something big is going to happen. If it's just one set of titles, say it's the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles, FTR's winning. If it's just the IWGP Tag Team titles, we know that Cobb and O'Khan are probably going to win that one. If it's both sets, that makes it very interesting. So keep an eye on that one, but I think that does lead into Forbidden Door nicely as well. Finally, we had a recent set of AEW Dark tapings at Universal Studios. We're not going to get too much into spoilers, but part of the big sessions was the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. Now, we saw a Pure Rules match with Tony Nese facing off against JDX. This led to a Ring of Honor Pure Championship match where Wheeler Yuta faced off against Tony Nese. Now, the guest judges were BJ Whitmer, Mercedes Martinez, and Christopher Daniels. But that wasn't the only Ring of Honor sort of pure storyline that was going on. We had a match, after that match rather, Daniel Garcia, Matt Menard, and Angelo Parker attacked Yuta as a setup for the upcoming Blood and Guts match. Garcia also said he wants to take the Pure Championship away from Wheeler Yuta and held the title up. Now, again, this led to Daniel Garcia competing in a Pure Rules match in the second session against Alan Angels of the Dark Order. Now, Wheeler Yuta made the save to confront Garcia and set up a future match. So at some point, we're going to get Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia for the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. I hope that would be for or on a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. It's been rumored recently that we're going to have one in July, I think. So that pay-per-view could see Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia in a Ring of Honor Pure Championship match. How awesome does that sound? I'm really excited to see that. So keep an eye out for that one. And again, it leads nicely into the Blood and Guts match too. But anyway, guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. And I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.